Hello, everyone. I'm Keith DeStone, and I'm here, as always, with Greg Nagy, Sarah, Janet, and Elen for HeroesX Office Hours. This is the 15th version of HeroesX, and this is the, let's say, closing word for the moment. Even that sounds too final. The latest word of v15. We'll do hours 22 and 23 and a bit of 24 as well. So the discussion question for hour 22 posed by Greg to the participants is as follows. In the Apology of Socrates by Plato, Socrates indirectly compares himself to many heroes. Which comparison do you think fits him the best? So what do folks think about this one?
Well, one participant mentions the embassy scene in Iliad 9, and also some scenes from the Apology. And he thinks that although Achilles is better known for being a great warrior, he also proved to be a great speaker. And so in that way, he's wondering if he's not similar to what Socrates also is.
I so agree. I think Achilles would be my candidate. And Achilles is not only a great speaker, he resembles, may I put it in a fanciful way, Homer most closely. In other words, the things that we admire about Homeric poetry as represented by this culture hero called Homer, from the point of view of Greeks in the classical period or in the period of Plato himself in the next century, the 4th century. Frankly, not only is the virtuosity of Achilles matching Homer the best, Homer as he was understood by even Plato, but therefore he is the best representative of Homer. And that's why I think already in the Apology, he's very interested in having dialogues with Achilles and all the other heroes as well. But I would say, given the fact that Plato actually interprets how shall I call it, the heroic dilemma of Achilles in the Iliad about dying young at Troy. Just the way he interprets the Iliad writ large makes me think that the best candidate for dialogues with heroes for Socrates, if there is an afterlife, would be Achilles. So I love that answer. I love that the way that participant came to that answer. And here I do a shout out for this amazing book by Richard P. Martin, The Language of Heroes, 1989, which the center is planning to produce a second edition for. Sorry for my syntax. I shouldn't end a sentence with a for, but I just did.
Another poster talked about, again, Socrates comparing himself to Achilles on the base of dikē.
Yes.
Socrates is presenting himself as an exponent of dikē. Is he looking for a new version, though? A new version of dikē?
Not necessarily a new version, because after all, in Homeric poetry, that word is downplayed. Or at least it's not played up the way it is in Hesiodic poetry. So I would say it's the good old version, as Plato would understand it, but I don't think Plato would have been particularly sensitive to the absence of the word dikē, meaning justice in the abstract in Homeric diction, because there are exceptions, there are cases. So I think that's more our thinking as we look back and we see the patterns of Homeric versus Hesiodic poetry. Still a lovely observation.
Perhaps more controversially, someone has suggested also Odysseus, who, on the grounds that they have a number of characteristics in common. They have a quest, a journey, they have great ability with words, their skill in convincing people, and they would have an amazing dialogue.
Oh yes, I think Socrates would try to pin down Odysseus about why he was so mean-spirited about Palamedes, because after all, for Socrates and for Plato, who is, shall we say, channeling Socrates, there were two great culture heroes who were paragons of craftiness and craft, not just craft, but craftiness. And one of them would be Odysseus, of course, but the other would be Palamedes. And hello, where is Palamedes in the Odyssey? Nowhere. So Odysseus, what about that rival of yours? An embarrassing question. But I bet Socrates would like to ask Odysseus, in this world that we're picturing, Socrates interviewing all those heroes in the other world.
Well, let's move to the hour 23 question, continuing with Socrates. The question here is, do you think that the quest of Socrates, expressed as a theōriā, is really heroic? So this kind of takes us back to hour one.
Yeah.
But, well, did the participants take it in that direction? What did they have to say?
Well, one of them is thinking of the living word of the Socratic dialogue. The word is immortal. So therefore, it never dies. So in this way, he thinks that it's possible to define Socrates' theōriā as heroic.
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. And here, the kind of hero that would be a prototype of theōriā would be not our two Homeric superstars, Achilles and Odysseus, but the superstar of Athenian hero cults, and that's Theseus, whose theōriā is the salvation of Athens from the point of view of the democracy that is executing, and I shouldn't say democracy, the democratic state that is executing Socrates in 399 BCE. Well, in terms of who the number one hero is from the point of view of the Athenian state, it would be Theseus, who is worshipped as a cult hero, and because he founded Athens, so to speak. He is the founder of everything that Athens, or should I say Athenians, are proud of in 399 BCE. I didn't like the way I said that. He is the civic model for the cult hero from the point of view of the state of Athens in, let's say, 399 BCE. And certainly, if Theseus is the exponent of theōriā, in the more old-fashioned sense of salvation for the community, well, then Socrates as an exponent of a new kind of theōriā, which he exemplifies while he's waiting for his execution in prison, would be the philosophical kind of theōriā that we understand theory to be even today. So to speak, Plato's Socrates makes it stick that we don't think of Theseus's theōriā, when we say theory, we think of Socrates.
Another post mentioned rooster, sacrificing rooster to Asclepius.
Yes.
Rooster will be singing again, and the words will be coming back again.
Yes, and I find it so interesting that the person to whom Socrates says that is born in the same district of the Athenian state writ large, the technical term for which is a demos. So in a sense, it has to do with the rootedness of making contact with gods and cult heroes, which even in terms of the Athenian state, you would do primarily in terms of the district of the overall state of Athens where you were born, the district that is the Mother Earth for you as the native son, S-O-N.
Someone's picked up on going back to Achilles and the kleos aphthiton. And kleos, of course, is something that is heard, something that is spoken, something that is heard. And so those words about and by Achilles are still being transmitted today. Okay, we read them more than hear them, but we still hear the kleos of Achilles and the words and dialogues of Socrates, which continue today. So making that parallel and bringing us back full circle as well.
Yeah, Sarah, the way you just said it, and you're channeling our wonderful participants as well, it just says it all. It's for me a never-ending wonder. But there it is. There it is.
And now we come to hour 24, which at the moment when we're recording this doesn't have any responses yet from the participants. So, Greg, this question will be for you, and maybe for those of us, the rest of us assembled here. In what I wrote for hour 24, says Greg, posing the question, hour 24 of the book, H24H, I used a variety of passages taken from ancient Greek literature for the purpose of illustrating the idea of the hero as savior. But I could have chosen 3 or 4 times as many relevant passages. So I would ask you now to choose from the source book a passage of your own, some passage that I did not choose for hour 24. How does your passage illuminate the idea of the hero, male or female, as a savior? And what kind of savior is the hero you have chosen? So the tables are turned. Greg, what do you think?
Well, so now I have to pick a passage that I didn't pick for hour 24.
That's right. If you can remember which ones are in and out, I have to.
I remember which ones are in.
My copy is over there.
I love them all. I love them all. Well, my goodness. What would I would still pick the same one of the same ones.
I'm thinking, of course, of Hippolytus. I don't think he's in hour 24, or Phaedra. Really, they go together, and how they save the young ones as they pass from youth to adulthood.
I love that. So you would pick Artemis's speech.
What Artemis relates there about the ritual that will be performed.
She predicts it.
In the future.
What will happen every time that time of the year comes around. And it'll be, it's interesting. It's not girls and boys, it's girls that Artemis is concentrating on. She could have said boys when they're thinking of hunting. But
that's right. That's right.
The goddess didn't say that. It was young girls.
Yeah, so that would be.
So how's that? Especially because we're living in an era where we're more sensitive to representatives of the feminine gender and how that way of speaking is different from the default way of speaking for humanity, which is the male voice. isn't it interesting that here's a divine female voice talking about the personal experiences of everyday females who are experiencing that very important transition from how shall I say it? I'll say it in a kind of crude English way, girlhood to womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. And but that doesn't count for me because I picked that passage in other hours. So
Oh no,
Keith,
that's okay.
Is that okay?
It's only passages that were not included in hour 24.
Oh, good.
Specifically.
Well, then Keith, I subscribe to that one.
Okay. What about you, Sarah or Jenna or Ellen? Any missing favorites?
Yeah, I have one. I was wondering about the one mentioned in the Odyssey, and Menelaos is talking to Nestor's son and to Telemachus, and he's talking about Nestor. And I see that passage fitting well with the concept of Olbios, because Menelaos talking about Nestor says that Zeus has granted Olbios to him.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was wondering about that passage. I think it would fit well with the Olbios.
I love that. I'll take it.
Sarah, I think I saw you about to say something as well, or did you have the same passage?
No, Janet, go ahead.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I take Odyssey, Iliad and Odyssey together as saviors that they brought tragedies, they brought poetry after.
Yes.
Things are built on that tradition, and they brought such a beautiful things to humanity. So they are saviors together.
I love that. So in a way that speaks for hours 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Mm-hmm. Our initial reading experience.
One of the things I've been noticing here is, as we've been discussing it, is how the hero and the ritual and what is prescribed are all interrelated. And I was doing a quick search in the source book for these words, for example, sword saying to save or to be a soter. And I've noticed that it relates to words and ritualistic behavior that has to happen. I've just picked one example. Orestes talks about keeping the commands of the oracle as he then approaches Athena's statue. So that idea of being a savior or preserving applies to people, but also to the rituals, and then the rituals themselves become a way of being a savior for the people. So it goes back and forth, I think. Is that how you would see it?
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you know what? Dear Sarah, you inspired me to pick a passage that is, I think, not in H24H at all. Now, maybe I'm forgetting it. It's there, but that's okay too. But I'm thinking of how in Plato's Republic, Plato's Socrates, who has pretty much put mythos, in our sense, myth, out of business. There's just no room for mythos in philosophical thinking. But he says, wait a minute, maybe there's a way of letting myth in through the back door. And then what does he do? He produces a myth, which I think is not invented out of nothing, and is very, may I put it this way, Eastern in orientation, but also pre-Homeric in orientation. We might almost call it Orphic. And it's the myth of ER with a long mark over the E. And let's not even go into the myth of and its mysticism. In that context, Socrates says, kai ho mythos esolte, and myth was saved. And there's that verb, esolte, sozo, save. And if I did let that passage into the book through the back door myself, then I've got another one where mythos itself is the hero of the story. And here's Aristotle himself, who is not given, shall we say, to displaying a poetic soul in his recorded thinking for the most part. But at one point he said, and we have this saying of his only as a fragment, so we don't know exactly where he said it, but he said, the older I get, the more I love myth. Philomythoteros. Philomythoteros. The more a lover of mythos do I become. Wow. That's a nice signature for old age, as I experience old age. Not bad.
That's a wonderful passage. I need to find out from you where that fragment is. But in the meantime, friends, I don't have any funny words or clever endings here, but I love these conversations that we have, and I'm looking forward to the next round of them with version 16 of HeroesX coming up.
I can hardly wait.